Hey, welcome back everyone, Old Bubs here, and I have been carrying extensively this BRNLY Knives SQD-2. This knife is a titanium frame lock with an M390 blade. This version in G10 with this frag grenade pattern, bronze hardware, made in Italy, and produced under the BRNLY brand name. There are several variations available of this knife. You can get it in full tie, you can get it in this grenade textured tie, you can get it in fat carbon, you can get it in a rose titanium, and several other options that you should totally take a look at. This knife weighs a very manageable 3 1/4 ounces with a blade length of just under 3 inches, overall length of 7 inches, and a cutting edge of about 3 1/4. For a size comparison, this knife is nestled nicely right in between a Spyderco Para 3 and a Benchmade Bug Out. Now I wanted to take special mention to highlight this pocket clip, that when I first started carrying this knife, I really didn't like this pocket clip because it was difficult to get in and out of the pocket because this was so tight. But after several days of carrying it, this loosened up just perfectly, and actually in the end, because of how slim this is with absolutely no duckbill, I ended up really liking this pocket clip, and it is deep enough carry that you don't have a lot sticking up out of the top of the pocket, so it actually ended up being a major plus for this knife instead of a negative. As I've carried this knife, I've put it through some regular EDC paces, including some food prep, and specifically some food prep outdoors. It passes the test of cutting up salami and cheese beautifully on top of a log in the woods. I also found this knife to be a formidable apple slicing knife and a faithful companion on all my journeys.
Did I ever tell you about that time I got into a whole den of muskrats while we were hunting for wild radish sprouts? Sometimes I can still see it when I close my eyes at night.
I would not consider this knife a cardboard warrior, but it does effectively break down boxes or open your Amazon packages. If that's a bulk of what you do with your knife, there are probably better options out there to significantly lower cost. This blade appears to be designed with a little bit more strength in mind rather than just being outright slicey for the Amazon package connoisseur. Some major pluses to this knife. It truly is minimal hardware. With just a few screws, it disassembles and reassembles quite easily without intimate knowledge of how knives work. The ceramic bearings are in a high quality metal cage, and when looking through this knife piece by piece, it does appear that no corners were cut in trying to create a high quality cutting tool. I have found the thumb studs in the frame lock quite easy to manipulate in a number of ways. Reverse flicking for me has not been an issue at all. I did hand this knife to a few others that were not quite as nimble or experienced with pocket knives, and they did find these thumb studs to be a little bit harder to manipulate than average. I think that goes to show that it does take a little bit of practice and knack to be able to manipulate knives easily one-handed, but I cannot knock this knife in thumb stud placement in terms of manipulating and opening this knife. However, the thumb stud is clearly in the cutting path and has led to some buildup of debris behind the thumb stud, causing for something that does need to be cleaned regularly with a cotton swab. The thumb studs are easily removable for sharpening. As you can see, it's not a ton of room here at the plunge grind, so it will make this a little bit more difficult to get the base of this edge. On this particular knife, I am anxious to put my own edge on it because I know with a little steeper angle, this thing will unlock some serious slicing potential that hasn't been realized with the factory edge. However, from an edge retention perspective, the factory edge has held up quite well through lots of cuts and is still quite sharp, making me wait patiently to put my own edge on the knife. A little bit of background on the SQD-2 and the SQD that came before it. Lucas Burney is a custom knife maker who made the SQD, which is a smaller version of the same sort of knife shape and profile, and eventually it was produced and distributed by CRKT and was a budget knife that cost around $30. Later, the SQD-2 was born in premium materials and elongated slightly to give a fuller EDC knife experience, but at a higher price tag, made with premium materials and produced in Italy under the CRKT brand. This edition of the SQD-2 under the BRNLY label took another jump in the price point category, retailing this knife for $350. That price tag can be extremely jarring for people that are new to the knife world or people that consider that there's a lot more value to be had in a much less expensive knife. I can't really argue that from a price alone perspective, $350 feels feels like a lot of money for a knife of this size, profile, and materials. However, I must say, it is the going rate for small designers and makers who are using an overseas OEM. I'd encourage you to watch a recent video of mine that is a full breakdown on knife price and how much you should spend for a pocket knife. In the end, this knife absolutely disappears in the pocket, provides a welcome fidget factor, and truly does feel great in the hand in the most natural position. Once this pocket clip broke in, I found that I liked carrying this knife more and more the more time I spent with it. It can sound a little bit hokey, but I truly do think that some pocket knives are just more than the sum of their parts. This knife is more than G10, a frame lock, an M390. Not only does it look cool, it just has some sass and pizzazz in this odd little spear point potato looking blade shape. I have to say that all in all, I love this knife and I do not regret the purchase one bit. I fully intend on carrying this knife more and more and putting it through its paces in my everyday life. While there's plenty of room for skepticism about a former budget knife gone $350, I have to say that the BRNLY SQD-2 is certainly a knife that you should check out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you let love and light fill your life. Stay sharp out there, and I will see you all next time.